Shalom, everyone. It's Avi Lipkin again. By God's grace, by God's miracle, we're all here together. And I just wanted to give an update on what's happening. I didn't have to give you an update on what I predict is about to happen. But very excited to be alive. My sugar, I think, is coming down. My glucose meter is going down every day. It's less and less. 2 weeks from today, I have my pacemaker battery checked, maybe replaced. I don't know. They may say come back in 4 months. And if they do that, then I have to travel to the States for 3 months and come back so I can have the pacemaker. I'm telling you, I can't even plan a trip to the States yet, but we're getting close. And I think, again, by God's grace, 1st of May, 2nd of May is Independence Day, and then I come to the States. And we'll see how many months I have. And the good news and the bad news is that I have invitations all the way from Florida up to Virginia and then back down to Texas and Oklahoma and Arkansas and Colorado and New Mexico, Arizona, California. And Aaron yesterday was trying to dissuade me. My son was trying to dissuade me and say, "Hey, Daddy, you know, you're biting off more than you can chew. It's too much of a drive, too much travel." And but I haven't done this in over 2 years now, and I'm just so excited if I'm able to go to the States and do this work. I did it for 35 years, and I still feel like I'm 18, even though I'm not. And so I'm very excited. There's so much work. There's so many churches. And you have to remember, 35 years going to churches, and then the last 2 years not going anywhere because of the war. So I have a lot of invitations. And I'm extremely pleased that I feel relevant still, you know, that I'm able to bring a message, which is of importance. Here in Israel, we are on the verge of receiving 4 more bodies of our hostages who are not alive anymore, obviously. But there are still 69 people as hostages. We don't know yet who's alive and who's dead. We think 35 are dead, and the other 25 are alive, or 30. We don't know who's alive, who's not alive. We just know that living in these tunnels underground with no sunlight and very little food, and we don't know how long this can continue. The Israeli army is poised for an attack on Gaza. Then again, the question is, do we attack Gaza before we attack Iran? So we are poised for an attack on Iran. We're poised for Gaza. We think that Lebanon will remain quiet, that Syria will remain quiet. I don't want to claim any credit because all the credit goes to God, but there was a lot of talk in the media yesterday on things that I've been talking about, that the Druze are distant cousins to Moses and the daughter of Jethro, and Jethro's kid. There are about 1.5 million Druze believers in Syria, Jordan, and Israel and Lebanon, and they are all declaring allegiance to Israel. Israel is declaring allegiance to the Druze, and we are going to fortify the border straddling the Jordanian border, which is good for the Jordanians also, gives them more security. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said to the Syrians, or shall I say the Turkish-backed group, that we will not tolerate any Syrian or Turkish troops south of Damascus. So it means that our troops are digging in, they're building up. We are using our intelligence to find out where there are abandoned warehouses and stock yards where they have these missiles and guns and whatever. So we thank God for the miracle of Syria collapsing and coming under control of another group, this other group, who are Sunni, will be a danger eventually. The Lebanese had their funeral procession for the Shiite leader, Nasrallah, but the vast majority of Lebanese hate Nasrallah and his legacy. And Nasrallah did what in Lebanon, what the Hamas did in Gaza. And Musa Abu Marzouk, who was one of the leaders of the Hamas in Gaza, came out with a declaration yesterday that had he known how Gaza would be so thoroughly destroyed, he would not have supported the attack on October the 7th. So this is the second time we hear something like this. Nasrallah also said in 2006 that had he known the damage done to Lebanon by Israeli troops, he would not have kidnapped and killed the 3 Israeli soldiers, as you all remember. So God has kept us. Lebanon, at least at this stage, is quiet. Syria is quiet. Again, we don't know yet what we are going to do and when with Iran, and the Hamas in Gaza are trembling. They claim that they have still some cards in the pack, but they don't. And we want our people back. And if we don't get them back, henceforth, Israel will go back into Gaza again. So the war is not over. Fighting can break out anywhere at any time. And we are going to see where it all goes. But meanwhile, we are licking our wounds and resting up and getting ready for the next offensives. And there will be more offensives. So we are watching this very carefully. As always, Rachel is very much listening to the Arabic language broadcasts and keeping me updated. I, of course, am more with the Hebrew and the Western English language information sources. So we're waiting to see what happens with all these enemies surrounding us. And again, I want to praise God that President Trump won the elections. Trump is God's gift to the world, God's gift to Israel, and we appreciate him very much. We cannot imagine if Kamala Harris had been elected, or Biden, or any of these people. They were all evil people. And now Israel, I don't know if I should say this or not, but our arms reserves are all up to date. All our warehouses are full, and we are now just getting ready for the D-Day that we have to go into. And we will be losing more soldiers. It's a difficult time. But the first major round, which was the October 7th war in the last 4 months, that's over. So now we're going to get ready for the next round. I did want to say something. I had a chat yesterday with Aaron, and when my own son says to me, "Daddy, you're a prophet," I always say to him, "Yes, I'm a prophet, but 300 years before my time." And then I answer Aaron, "No, not 300 years before my time, 3 years before my time." Because 3 years today is today. And one of the things that I've been following very carefully is the creation of a Kurdish state. And as you all probably know, there are many, many communities of Kurds in Turkey, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. And they are all highly persecuted in their countries. It is ironic that there are 40 to 50 million Kurds in all these countries, and they don't have a state. And the Kurds, unlike the Palestinians, they're Muslim, but they are friends of Israel. Kurds have, by and large, always been friends of Israel. I think you all also probably heard of the Sykes-Picot Treaty at the end of World War I, which basically took a ruler on the map in the Middle East, and they drew lines, and the lines were not really representative of the nations that were under the lines. Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump say over and over again, we are going to remap the Middle East. We're going to remake the map of the Middle East. And one of my predictions is that the Euphrates, which drops 45 degrees from Turkey towards the Persian Gulf, that whole area to the east of the Euphrates is Kurdish. And they want to break away from Syria, which is either Sunni or Shiite, but they're Arabs and they're against the Kurds. Iraq has a tremendous Kurdish population. Their capital is in a city called Rojava, but you've heard of Erbil probably. And they want to break away from Iraq. They want to form also a Kurdish state. The problem here is that all these separate Kurdish entities are landlocked. And they only have planes flying when they have the permission of the Iraqis. The moment there is talk of independence, the Iraqis shut down the airspace. And I'm predicting the following. I'm predicting a war with Iran. And if you look, if you're capable, if you get a copy of the map of Iran, the northwestern part of Iran, the northwestern tip, is Azeri. The Azeris are as the same as the people from Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is a Muslim, Sunni Muslim, and they are allies of Israel. If we have a major war with Iran, we will work with the Azeris, the Azerbaijanis, and my feeling is that the Azeris of Iran will break away from Iran and link up with Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan's borders will expand. And again, remember that these are allies of Israel. Just to the south of the Azeri area is the Kurdish area in Iran. And they are treated very badly by the Iranians. My prediction, therefore, is that the Iranian Kurds will also break away from Iran, just as the Azeris to the north, and they will link up with the Kurdistan in Iraq. Now, what is the great thing here? If and when the Kurds of Iran link up with the Kurds of Iraq, they will have an airspace flying north through Azerbaijan, which obviously will give it support. Azerbaijan and Kurdistan will be allies. Don't forget, they're not Arabs. These are Turkic peoples. And all airplanes from Kurdistan will be able to fly north to Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, to Russia, to China, anywhere. Because they're not faced with the threat of Iraqi anti-aircraft or Iranian anti-aircraft. So you have to first envision that the air route will open up over formerly northern Iran, through Azerbaijan, and from there across the Caspian Sea and up into Russia or the Sistans that broke away from Russia. That's to the east. The Iraqis will be to the south. They won't be happy about it. I think in the end, they'll have no choice. But the important part, as far as I'm concerned, there are two important parts, but the one I'm talking about right now, Syria, you have the Kurdish troops along the Euphrates. You hear the Euphrates, you hear ding dong, you hear the Bible. Euphrates is the northern border of Israel. The Kurds will be to the northeast of the river Euphrates, and the Israelis will be to the southwest. If we make an agreement with them and we reach the Euphrates River going past Suwaida and Mountain of the Druze, it's about 100 miles. But Kurdish planes will be able to fly south from Kurdistan over the southern Syria, which is now controlled by Israel, and then fly out over the Mediterranean. So actually, the Kurds will have two opposite air routes in which Kurdish airlines will be able to fly. under the protection of Israel, under the protection of Azerbaijan. I'm very excited. Nobody's talking about this, but this is what I believe is going to happen. Then finally, you have another problem, an Armageddon problem with the Turks. The Turks sent their terrorist-backed, Turkish-backed group all the way into southern Syria to Damascus. The Israelis say, no way, Jose. We will not tolerate Turkish presence in Syria. Meanwhile, the Turks are attacking the Kurds. And what I think is going to happen is I think that the Turks will be defeated, with Israeli help, of course. This will lead to a further worsening of the situation with the Turks. 25% of Turkey is Kurdish. So these people, these Kurds are going to break away from Turkey. And they're going to join up with the Kurds of Syria, the Kurds of Iraq, the Kurds of Iran. I don't know if you're able to follow the geography, topography orally as I'm giving it to you. And then there's one last cherry on the whipping, and that is there's a group of Shiites in the southeast of Turkey who are brutalized by the Turks. They're Shiites. They're Shiite, they're Alawite, and they are actually close to the Shiites of Syria, but they're Turks. But the Turks hate them because the Turks are Sunnis. So again, I'm keeping in mind that Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump have said, we are going to remake the borders of the Middle East. None of you are going to believe any of this when it happens. So I just thought I should let you know, this is how I see it happening. I spoke to my son Aaron. He did not disagree with me. And like I said, he said, Abba, you're a prophet, but you're 300 years before your time. I said, no, 3 years, probably less. So that's regarding the Turks. Going to another subject. Now, I don't know, maybe I'm fantasizing. I do a lot of fantasizing. You know, we're still asking each other the question, where are 1.5 to 2 million Gaza Arabs going to go? And, you know, President Trump, in addition to being simply a great leader, and simply, I love him because he's from Queens. I used to be from Queens also, from Nassau County. I used to be a neighbor of Trump, not just a few miles away. My best friend I had lunch with today, his mom, he and his mom were subcontractors for the Trumps 50 years ago. And I don't know if you all know this or not, but President Trump's father, Fred, was a contractor also. And he helped to save thousands and thousands of Jews who escaped the Holocaust. They came to New York, and he housed them. He took care of them. He took care of the Jewish people. So it's very, very unusual to find an American president or a presidential family that is so good to the Jews. I think we saw it with President Johnson after Kennedy was killed. He was a good man for the Jewish people. On the other hand, the Republicans had a terrible family, the Bush family, who were virulently anti-Jewish. So we're very, very excited with the Trumps. He's a businessman. He sees things through the eyes of business. And he says, listen, Gaza is like the Riviera in France. That's choice real estate. They've got the Mediterranean Ocean, and they could have turned it into a Riviera. They could have turned it into Singapore or Hong Kong. But the only thing that the Muslims have in mind is to kill everybody. So Trump says the first thing we have to do is transfer. He didn't say kill. He said transfer the Gaza Arabs out. Completely demolish the Gaza Strip, rebuild it completely according to a master plan. And that will be good for the new people who will come in to live there, which of course will be a lot of Israelis, a lot of Jews. I am actively working with Christians, or shall I say non-Jews here in Israel, who want to bring non-Jews to live in Gaza, because we do not see so many Jews coming here as of yet. Though I do believe there will be some kind of a Holocaust in the States precipitated by a collapse of the dollar or the super rise of gold, or something is going to bring the American economy down. And of course, the Jews will be blamed for everything. And that will bring us millions of Jews and Christian spouses who will be coming to live in Israel. So Gaza will be vacated. Gaza will be demolished completely. Gaza will be completely rebuilt. And I believe there will be room for Jews, Christians, Messianics, whatever you want to call them. And we're going to turn Gaza into a paradise. Don't forget another thing. Prime Minister Modi of India has a plan, together with the Americans, together with Saudis and others, to build a beltway, which would be by train and by ship and by plane, in which goods would be transferred to Europe and back to India via the Emirates, via Saudi, via Jordan, Israel, and the Gaza Strip. Gaza Strip will become a transit point for all these goods. So we're very excited. There are things that can be done, and they will be done by President Trump. They cannot be done leaving the terrorists in place there in Gaza. So we're very, very excited about all of these things. We've got 4 years to get all these things done. I'm very happy to hear that Netanyahu says that he sees eye to eye with President Trump over everything. And I'll tell you, many people say, well, do you think that America should own Gaza? And my answer is a 99-year lease. This is what the British had with Hong Kong. This is what they have with Cyprus, even though the 99 years is up. Don't forget, if the U.S. is involved in Gaza, the Egyptians and the Turks will not dare to attack Israel. And for many, many months, I've been talking on these Zooms about the threat of Egypt, the threat of Turkey. But like I said before, if Israel is alone, then they can attack us. If Israel has the backing of the United States, and I'm not saying boots on the ground, I'm saying if there's an American presence and anyone dares to threaten the American presence, all you need is a whole bunch of B-52s and bomb the crap out of the Egyptians or the Turks. This is something that will not involve American troops, and hopefully not even Israeli troops. And one of my favorite passages in the entire Bible go back to Adam and Eve, where God says to Adam and Eve, "You will tend my garden." And God's garden, the Middle East, has been turned into a desert through thousands of years of terrible leadership or lack of leadership. And the time has come for the Jews and the Christians together to turn the Middle East into a Garden of Eden. And the Kurds will be our allies and neighbors to the northeast, and the Americans will be with us in Gaza. I think we're going to see some very good things happening with President Trump. So now, it's a roller coaster. And that's pretty much the wrap up of this. If there are questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Avi, we've seen some things about making a Druze territory in Syria. You talked a lot about Kurds having a state. What about the Druze?
The same applies to the Druze. Now, keep in mind, the Kurds are 40 to 50 million. The Druze altogether in Lebanon, Israel, Syria, and Jordan are 1.5 million. It's a very small bunch of people divided up into different countries. In my opinion, in my personal viewpoint, I see the Druze as our brothers and sisters. What we can do for them and do it really nicely is give them almost independence, give them an autonomy, increase our tourism and relations with them to such an extent that they will be blessed. They'll have their socks blessed off, as we say in the United States. I don't think that the Kurds even want to have their own state. Or shall I say, maybe they would see their state as a San Marino or a Monaco. But, you know, San Marino, they speak Italian. They use one world government European money. And Monaco uses French money, which is, of course, also European Euro money. And they speak French. So the Druze speak primarily Arabic. That's been their language for 4,000 years. And we must never, ever forget that Jethro is the father of the Druze, and he's the father-in-law of Moses. So the Druze and the Jews are, without turning it into a pun, the Druze and the Jews are one people. And so I think in the end, there will be some kind of a plebiscite and let the Jews decide, do they want simply to be part of Israel, or do they want to have like almost complete autonomy or independence under Israeli protection? And like I said before, the Druze are natural allies of the Jews, and they're natural allies of the Kurds. And the Kurds are going to be a power. They're going to be a country of 40 million people in what used to be Turkey, what used to be Syria, what used to be Iraq, and what used to be Iran. And Iran's going to not disappear from the map, but Iran will be left with Elam. If you look at the Bible, the trunk of Iran. At first, I was saying I didn't think it was a good idea to break Iran apart, but now I've come to the conclusion that this is what we have to do.
How is that 1.5 million distributed? Syria and Israel only, or?
Syria, Israel, and Lebanon. Okay. And the Kurds, I mean, the Druze are known for their loyalty to the countries in which they live. But the Druze of Syria have all burned their passports. They all want Israeli passports now because Syria was persecuting them under the Shiite regime of Bashar al-Assad. And then when Bashar fell, they came under the Sunni domination, the Sunni, I don't want to say protection. They came under the Sunni persecution. And they're not happy with them either. Don't forget, if the Druze say that, they don't say Allah Akbar, they just say Allah. And they don't say that Muhammad is the greatest of all the prophets. They say Jethro is the greatest of all the prophets. And you know what? There's nothing in the Bible that countermands that. So we love the Jews, we recognize them. And if they say, you know what, we're coming over to the side of the Jewish people, don't you see Messiah in this? I see Messiah in this. More questions? Fire away. Angela, I knew you were going to pop up with a question.
Avi, I've been reading in Egyptian newspapers that they are in partnership with Russia now, and the Russian company Rosatom, or some CEO, is saying that the nuclear plant they're going to build in Darba is going to be one of the biggest ever constructed. And they've started preparations. They've started building, even though there are sanctions. How does Israel view this news?
Are you talking about a nuclear plant in Gaza?
No, it's in Egypt, in Darba.
Well, no, Gaza is not Egypt. Gaza is...
No, not Gaza. Darba, in 300 miles from west of Cairo.
I'm trying to... Your British accent...
Anyway, it's in Egypt. Egypt are building it with the help of Russia.
Could you be saying Giza, Giza?
Egypt, as in,
Egypt.
yes.
But the area is Giza. Giza.
No, Daba, Daba, Daba.
Okay, you got me, darling.
It's in Matrua Governorate on the Mediterranean coast.
Okay, Mersa Matruh. Yes, this is like the Riviera of Egypt.
Yeah.
It's in on the north shore of Egypt, going to the west of Alexandria. I will check with my wife. She knows all the names.
Yeah, northwest of Cairo, it's saying.
Right, right.
Going to have 4 sections called power units. I mean, obviously they're saying for the electricity problem or something, but obviously that is a major threat also, bearing in mind that they are stoking, well, it's not ready yet, but it's just, you think, what, with Egypt increasingly looking less friendly, with all the tanks they're stoking up on the border. And
Well, about the tanks on the border with Israel and with Gaza, how many B-52s do you think Trump has to send to erase all of them? I mean, there are things that don't even require American boots on the ground. So, and also, you've heard me many times before quoting Ezekiel 29, which says that there's going to be a flood in the River Nile and Egypt won't exist anymore. So, I mean, it would be nice if they have electrical power, but if the electrical power is there to build a bomb against Israel, I'm not concerned. Israel, Israel will probably know very well what to do.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I mean, if the Egyptians were having good, positive vibrations towards Israel, they would say to Israel, come in and help us build it and have your specialists, monitoring everything so as to allay any fears that we might have. We haven't heard anything about that yet. I mean, you're a beautiful and very intelligent lady, so it could be you have your own sources there. But here in Israel, everything is very much posted by the media and nobody's talking about it.
Yeah. Well, they're talking about it in Russia and in Egypt, but in their press. But I just wondered if it was the top.
All I can say is I'm glad you brought it up, and I promise to have an answer for you next week.
Okay. Thank you.
If my wife wasn't too busy in the kitchen, I'd holler at her and she'd come up and she probably knows.
She probably does. Yeah. Thank you.
She knows everything. Who am I?
Yes. I'm sure she does. Yeah.
Gaba. Okay, I'll speak to my wife. Yeah.
Avi?
Yeah.
Glenn Howard here.
Pastor Glenn.
I've wondered the situation in Iran. So I understand there's a lot of the people still calling themselves Persians that are very opposed to the Arabs that dominate Iran at the moment. Is there a chance of situations changing in Iran and it actually becoming Persia once again instead of Iran and pushing the Arabs out, or a realignment in that part of the world?
I think the answer is yes. I have to tell you that in Israel, we have very good relations with the exiled son of the former Shah. I am sure he would be very angry with me for talking about giving the Azeri province in the north over to Azerbaijan to be part of the expanded country of Azerbaijan, and to give away the Kurdish area in northern Iran to the Kurdish state at Rojava. he would be very angry with me because there are people who believe in Iran. And if you give away all these minority groups, 50% of Iran is Persian. Bill Salas, I think you've heard of Bill Salas. He has very, very interesting emails about the destruction of Elam, E-L-A-M, which is in the Bible, is the original trunk country of Persia. So, listen, I don't know what Netanyahu and Trump have planned. All I can say is for a Kurdish country to exist, they have to have air routes, airspace, going west and going east. And the one going through northern Iran would be perfect. Unless the Iranians said to the Kurds, we will recognize the Kurdish state, just don't break away from Iran and we'll let you have your air routes. But the Iranians behave very dastardly with the Kurds, and they behave very dastardly with the Azeris. And I have news for you also, Pastor Glenn. In the southeast of Iran, there is an area called Baluchistan, and it's a tremendous area with lots of rich earth minerals. And they're trying to break away from Iran. There's also Baluchistan in Pakistan. They want to break away from Pakistan. They want to form one country. And they're terrorists. The Chinese have come into Pakistan, into Baluchistan, and they get slaughtered. They get massacred by the Muslims, by the Baluchi armed resistance in Pakistan and in Iran. So Baluchistan is a very big province that wants to break away from Iran. So you have the Azeris, you have the Kurds, you have the Baluchis. Don't forget the Arabs. You have Arabs in southwestern Iran where they have all of their oil. They want to break away from Iran. They're saying, we have all this wealth under the ground in oil, and the Iranian government takes all the money away from us and spends it on weapons for Palestine, and we don't have water to drink. They have oil, but they don't have water to drink. They're suffering very much in the Arab section there on the border with Iraq. Like I said before, I think that there will be major changes in the map. Exactly what changes, we don't know. But, Trump knows and Bibi knows. But your question is fantastic, Pastor Glenn, as always. Any more questions? I'm waiting. I'm holding my breath.
What can you tell us about the attack that was foiled by God last week?
You're talking about the buses, the bombs on the 5 buses.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I will say one thing, and that is that there's a lot of heavy censorship, and we don't even really know what it was all about, because 5 bombs had to be placed by 5 people who had backing of 5 people who drove them, who had 5 people and others in laboratories producing these bombs. So, the Israeli government cannot come out and say, hey, there were about 30, 40, 50 terrorists behind these bombings. But praise God, God thwarted everything. The question to be asked, how much more can our luck hold not to have buses exploding, killing hundreds of our people? There is an Israeli taxi driver in Tel Aviv, and he gets a call from somebody in Ariel. Now, Ariel is one of the Jewish cities in Judea and Samaria. And he says, come up to Ariel, pick up a ride. He doesn't say it's an Arab. He says, we're ordering a taxi for someone in Ariel. He goes up to Ariel, picks up the guy, brings him to Tel Aviv. That's all. He didn't know he was a terrorist, but he got arrested for aiding and abetting illegal infiltration into Israel. listen, the Arabs are evil, but they're not stupid. And so they know how to circumvent our security. We have to find ways to improve our security and not allow terrorists to infiltrate our country. More than that, I really can't tell you, because all we know is that it's all being investigated now.
Okay, I'll switch topics now. How about France? What's
Well,
going on with
listen, listen, you all know that I received a 3-year jail sentence in Switzerland in 2009 for speaking up against Islam. And many people in Switzerland said I should have gotten a medal from the Swiss government for saving the Swiss people from having to have 400 minarets built in the 400 mosques. And in the end, I got a 3-year jail sentence, which was commuted to 10 years. But I haven't gone to Switzerland ever since. Praise God, I have the United States of America, though I wasn't so sure about going to the United States during the Biden administration. So now I'm only now beginning to start thinking about my trip to the States. The United States, excuse me, the United States is the greatest country in the world. And I literally could spend all my time speaking in the United States. I don't even want to go to Canada anymore because Canada has these draconian laws that if you speak or write about Islam in a negative way, you go to jail. So I almost went to jail in Switzerland. France has the same rule. And England, I can't go to England anymore. Angela, did you hear me? I can't go to England anymore until you have a conservative government coming back into the parliament running the show. I don't want to say Europe is doomed, but the Muslims have the Europeans in their pockets. And I know I will be attacked for what I'm going to say now, but I'm extremely happy that the AfD and the Conservative Party together are forming the next government in Germany. So Germany at least maybe has some hope. Italy, Hungary, these countries have some hope. But France is a disaster. I believe that they will come, that we're going to see intifada in France, big time. Probably we're going to see intifada in England, big time. You have to remember, for the Muslims, Christians are no better than the Jews. And the bottom line is that the Muslims have to conquer all of Europe. Well, it's not going to happen in Germany. It's not going to happen in Italy. It's not going to happen in Hungary. It's not going to happen in Poland. It's not going to happen in the Baltic states. So what I think we're seeing is a sign of the times that there will be more and more European countries waking up. The question is, regarding France, is it too late? I hope I answered your question.
Yes.
You know, I've never been invited to speak in France. Never. I've been in England, in the UK, in Wales a number of times. I think Scotland might be difficult for me to get into. But the point is, you know, Avi Lipkin travels somewhere and all they have to do at the customs there, the passport control, is open the computer and see who I am. A few years ago, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, I was on the verge of a heart attack because I had too much coffee. And I was in Kansas. And I stopped at one of these little ER type hospitals next to the hotel. And my chest was exploding. And while they were, you know, giving me something to calm down the effects of the caffeine, the guy in charge there was a doctor. He came over and says, "Wow, you're a hot item in the American churches." They checked me out on the computer. So everywhere I go, it depends if it's a Muslim behind the computer, and they say, where are you going? They will have a hit team waiting for me wherever I go. My wife says to me, if you want them to kill you, let me know. I'll kill you first. My wife is cute. Nobody's laughing because I know you're all muted, but it's okay.
I let out a big laugh.
I know you are my greatest loyalist. I know when I tell a joke, you will always laugh. That's good. Maybe I'll come to Susan's group, and then you'll laugh a lot more.
Good, good.
Well, we're laughing a lot here, but we're muted, so.
You're right.
I will let Al come and save me.
Or I'll kill him too.
We're definitely laughing, Avi.
I told you my famous joke about Alitalia, the Italian airline, and El Al, the Israeli airline. They merged. You know what it's called now? Bell Alitalia. That's a New York joke. Okay.
Avi, what's the general feel of the Arabic broadcast that Rachel's listening in on? I mean, is it doubling down? Is it like is there fear, or what's she hearing in the Arab world?
Okay, I would say the overall feel of the Arabic media is that they have had it up to here with Hamas. They don't love the Jews, but a lot of people are getting to understand us, and they're beginning to understand how evil the Hamas is, and that the fanatic Islam is a threat to the moderate Islam. Now, I've always said there is no such thing as moderate Islam, but we have countries like the Emirates and Dubai. Listen, Saudi Arabia will never love us, but Saudi Arabia may one day put together this India, Emirates, Saudi, Israeli, Gaza beltway to Europe, which the Saudis want very much to amplify their economy and to bring in new inputs into the economy of Saudi Arabia, not just oil. And so this beltway is very important to Saudi also. Who's opposing all this? Gaza. And one thing you didn't ask, I'm going to say something really crazy now. This is for you, Lori. I'm sure you're going to appreciate this. If President Trump gets his way and plan to export 1.5 million Gaza, I don't want to say terrorists, but they're all terrorists. They all agree with what happened on October 7th. They all have to be out of there. If he sends them all, for example, to a big, great country like Indonesia, we have basically solved 1/3 of our Palestinian problem. Another third of our Palestinian problem is Judea and Samaria. And these people are exactly like the Hamas of Gaza, and they're going to fight us to the end. That's another third. Then there's another third, which is the Muslims of Israel of 1948, and they're going to fight us also. They may be more liberal than the others, but the bottom line of Islam is to kill the Jew on Saturday, kill the Christian on Sunday. So what's going to happen is these are the days of the Messiah. God is going to intervene to expel all those people who hate the Jews, who hate the Christian. And President Trump, by God, with God's help, is going to turn Gaza into Garden of Eden. It's going to be a Riviera. It's going to be a tremendous port for import-export for the road from India all the way to Europe. there's such a potential in Gaza. You know, I have to tell you something. I think I mentioned this many times on Zooms. When I was in artillery for 16 years, reserves, and we would patrol in Gaza, it was horrible because the Gaza families would not allow for the building of mainline sewage. There was no sewage. So people would flush their toilets and it would just go into the streets. So if you're on patrol in an Israeli army jeep and you're chasing down some terrorists and you drive through the sewage, the vacuum of the rectangular shape of the jeep sucks all this number one and number two into the jeep. And by the time, you know, we get back to the army base, we have to take all our clothes off, take a shower, and send all our clothes to the washing machine because we're all covered in excrement. Because the Gaza Arabs could not work it out between them to put in sewage lines. So we've got to get all the people out of there, and then we have to plan out sewage lines for all of Gaza so that people can live there. I'm sure there's going to be some kind of a master plan for modernizing Gaza and laying down an infrastructure that has not been possible until now.
Avi,
One
before,
last thing. One
Yeah.
last thing I want to say. Nothing could have happened without Trump being elected.
well, that's for sure. I have a question. Before Sharon gave Gaza away, did not the Jews that live there have plumbing, have sewers?
The Jewish communities in Gaza were at the northern tip and on the seashore. We're talking about Gush Katif. They were paradises because the Jews were running it. Sharon expelled 10,000 Jews from their homes, and then the Arabs came in and destroyed everything. So Sharon had two considerations. One was that the Jews were not coming to live in Israel. We did not have the troops. That's one of the reasons why I'm saying that I favor Christian and Messianic immigration to Gaza, because these people will be loyal to Israel and they will be an extension of the Jewish people. And the other point regarding Sharon is that the Gaza terrorists were building tunnels. I was in an Israeli army officer course in 1993, and we were being told already then that they were building tunnels underneath Israeli army posts and blowing them up, under Jewish communities, blowing them up. And so Sharon in 2006 said, this is futile. We have no business being in Gaza if we don't have the people, and if they're digging tunnels, and the world is going to condemn us for massive killing of the terrorists. So we just pulled out. We pulled out, so the terror came to us. But there are calls, increasingly vociferous calls, to allow Jewish people to go back to Katif and rebuild all of the northern part of Gaza, which is pretty empty, build it with Jewish homes. Jewish homes, and lay down the sewage, lay down the highways, put up the industries, and anybody who peeps, gets taken out. Okay, Lori, how are we going to get rid of the progressive generals in the IDF? I have to tell you, Lori, I have to say my dear Lori, but all of you are dear to me, so I have to be very careful how I say everything. I studied Sovietology at New York University in 1966 to 1968. 68 to 71, I continued studying Sovietology at Hebrew University. And I recommend to all of you, if you want to understand the Soviet thinking, now I'm not saying we're Soviets. I'm saying you have to understand there's a problem we're facing requires drastic action. There's a movie called The Admiral. Admiral, like commander of the ships. It's a Russian-made movie, I think in 2008. And we have generals who are getting paid by the deep state, by the one world government. Our chief of staff, Herzi Halevi, was now in Washington, and General Brown gave him a medal, which is the highest medal issued to a non-American citizen. And this guy's a traitor. The whole war, he was dragging his feet, and everything that Netanyahu and Netanyahu's advisors were telling him to do, he did the opposite. So watch the Admiral, you'll have the answer. There has to be an accounting. Netanyahu is going to do everything. There's going to be accounting, investigations, everything. But we have to get rid of certain people first. And I don't mean shooting them. I mean they have to be retired. They have to be taken out of their positions of influence. Israel, for 100 years, has been under Soviet socialist control. I don't mean Russia. I mean Soviet thinking. And so Netanyahu has to be very wary where and how he steps. We say in Hebrew he has to step on eggshells without breaking them. Not easy. Not easy. We have the state attorney general who it has been announced. I don't know if it's going to happen. It has been announced that she's going to be fired in 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. This woman is an enemy of Israel. She's an enemy of the government. She should never have been appointed, but she was appointed under the Ayelet Shaked and Naftali Bennett government that was there 1 year. They brought in this crazy woman. She opposes everything that Netanyahu tells her to do. And she's the lawyer for the government. It's like crazy, crazy, crazy. I don't believe in violence. And I think violence can be avoided. The only problem about violence is if these left-wing generals try to suppress 70% of the population, there will be a civil war. So what we're trying to do is gradually get rid of the traitors without killing them, and little by little replace them with normal, loyal people. I hope I answered your question, Lori.
Yes.
Avi, can you give us an update on what things are like in Judea and Samaria just now?
Well, I think you have to divide Judea and Samaria into two. Firstly, Judea is a lot quieter than Samaria. And also Samaria, south of Nablus, Shechem, is not too bad for now, though we are expecting an uprising. The primary threat at this time is Jenin, Tulkarem, and areas to the northeast of Nablus, Shechem. So the Israeli army is dealing with that first. But I have to remind you that 80% of the Judea and Samaria Arabs are Hamas. And they want to do these terrible things that Gaza did. They believe in it.
Yeah, I was reading that. I was pleased to see an Israeli minister, I forget his name, has seized the funds that were the pay to slay payments from Mahmoud Abbas's authority, that he gives them this money when they kill Jews, and they've still been receiving these payments while they've been in prison. Now the minister has seized these monies, recovered some of them, and is stating he's going to give these monies to the victims of terror and the families that lost loved ones on the 7th of October. Is that big news in Israel?
Well, it's obvious that this is what has to be done. And you're talking about our finance minister, Smotrich.
Yes, Smotrich, thank you.
Smotrich. And you will be seeing a lot more coming along on that line. I think the U.S. government also, under Biden, was punishing the Jewish settlers and sending money to these terrorists. So now it's going to be the reverse. In other words, God has been taking over and the devil is being defeated, which of course makes me very, very happy. One of the problems also is that there's a lot of money filtering in from outside Israel by, I don't want to say by enemy sources, but they're friendly countries, but the governments are helping to fund these terrorist organizations and terrorist people. This has to stop. By the way, and it will stop. As long as Trump is president and he's with us, I think what we need to do now is improve our relations with the new government in Germany, to improve our relations with Hungary, Poland, the Baltic states. There are a lot of countries in Europe who will stand with us if we are firm. There's also a lady who I love very much, Nitzana Darshan, and she has a ministry. I read her things every day. She takes all these banks to court and confiscates millions and maybe billions of dollars from these banks that channel the money to the terrorists. Nitzana Leitner Darshan. And I have to check her email to see what the name of her ministry is. But she's a lawyer, and she tracks down all this money movement, follow the money trail. So this is also very important. She is doing her job. Smotrich is doing its job. Bibi is cooperating with him. So listen, we have a government that has been stifled for 4 years by Biden. But very good question.
Avi, what's the population of Gaza, the people of Gaza?
Gaza, it's very, very hard to know because they have been artificially inflating the numbers.
Ballpark.
The Israeli government talks about 1.5 million. Others are saying 2 million. Others are saying 2.5 million. I would say it's probably closer to 1.5 million. I would say also that half of them will be very happy to emigrate, not be expelled. They just give them maybe $10,000, give them laissez-passer passports, and just let them go. Go anywhere, just leave.
So if you've got 500,000 terrorists, they're not going to move easily. That's quite a quandary.
Well, I said this in past Zooms the last few weeks. I know you were here in Israel with us, so I hope you had a nice trip. Like I said before, a country like Indonesia, nobody's talking about it. I don't know if they're not talking about it because Indonesia put its foot down from the beginning and said no, or it could be that it's yes and they just don't want to talk about it. But Indonesia is the most populous Muslim country in the world, 200 million Muslims. They have no Jews. They have like 20 Jews in all of Indonesia. They've got jungle islands. They've got fresh water. They've got food, plenty. If you send 1.5 million Sunni Palestinians, it wouldn't affect Indonesia either way. So I think there has to be a number of countries. Malaysia could also fit the bill. That's a Muslim country that could take in more Muslim. But the good thing about Indonesia is that there are no, or virtually no, minorities there that could be threatened by the Gaza terrorists.
My point is, if you attempt to forcibly remove people who don't want to leave Gaza, that becomes quite a quandary, in my thinking.
You remember when we were young kids, we used to play pickup sticks?
Yep.
So pickup sticks, you go for the easiest ones first. So the ones who want to leave, do not put up obstacles. Do not put up bureaucratic obstacles. Let them leave. Help them to leave. And I think more Gazans, when they see Gazans are leaving, more Gazans will want to leave also.
I see. Okay. Thanks.
My son Aaron said to me that there are many Muslims in Judea and Samaria who have also left, and more are leaving. There is no Holocaust. There is no genocide. We're just telling the people who don't want to live with us that they are free to leave and live in peace somewhere else. And President Trump backs everything we're doing. So praise God for that. I'm happy to see that you're back, Neil, that you're okay.
Oh, this was Eric. It wasn't Neil.
I saw Neil.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see. Never mind.
Okay. Well, I'm very happy. We had this meeting. I see a lot of people participated. A lot of questions were asked.
Yeah. Hi, Avi. It's Elizabeth.
Hi, sweetie. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
Good, good. If we're talking to each other, that's a good sign.
It is, absolutely.
Sometimes my wife doesn't talk to me, so that's not good.
Well, you need all of us. I was going to ask you, I saw a report or heard something about, they're expecting that huge volcanic eruption in Santorini, right?
Yeah.
And they said on the Israeli news that they had an emergency meeting regarding the tsunami. If there was a tsunami, it would affect part of Israel. Have you heard anything on that?
Not more than what you have just said. We know. I mean, this. Hey, listen. You have a great country, the greatest country in the world, the United States of America, and they say that the Yellowstone caldera could destroy half of America. So, what are you going to do? You're going to lose sleep over that?
No, he can't.
So Santorini exploded, 2,000, 3,000 years ago, and it could happen again. You have Mount Etna in Sicily. That volcano is exploding all the time. So all kinds of stuff could happen. Pompeii. All these things are here in Europe.
Yeah, I just understood that they were evacuating the island and trying to warn people and try to, see what's going to happen,
Yeah. No, you're right. Things could happen, and things here could happen, and things happen.
Yeah. I know.
I'll tell you something very crazy. If you know the topography, the geography of this area of the world, all the area to the east of the Jordan River, to the east of the African Syrian Rift, is volcanic. There could be volcanoes in Syria, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, all the way down to Ethiopia. It's all part of the Syrian African Rift. So there could be volcanoes right across the Jordan River from us.
Where is this volcano that you're talking about? Where is that?
In Santorini,
Santorini,
in the ocean. Yeah, in the ocean under Santorini.
Oh, I don't know where that is, but yeah, what country? I don't know anything about that area.
It's part of Greece, yeah.
Oh, part of Greece. Okay.
You know what? I don't want to say something as we say in Hebrew. I don't want to open my mouth to the devil. But if you remember Mount St. Helens in Oregon,
yes,
that was a massive volcano, and this could happen with Mount Hood. It could happen with Mount Rainier. It could happen with Mount Shasta. All of this is in the rim of fire in California, Alaska. There are volcanoes all over the place, active.
Well, they've been talking a lot, not on the Israeli news, but to some of the news reports. I've heard that there's a lot along the West Coast as well.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Also, listen, You have Guatemala, you have Nicaragua, you have all these Central American countries that are so famous for their coffee. And they have the Ring of Fire there also, the volcanoes.
Well, I just found it well, not interesting, but it's like just one more thing to your plate. If Israel was having an emergency meeting about this incident occurring, they're very concerned about a tsunami coming that way.
Well, the Israeli approach, they did have a notification in the news in Israel where they said that if there's a tsunami, you have to be at least 1 mile away from the coast, from the beach.
Oh,
Or
okay.
go up to a building which is like more than 4 floors high.
Well, that's a good plan.
No, they spoke about it, but
Yeah.
it's like lip service.
Yes.
I'm very glad to see all of you very much alive. It's a pleasure. And just remember, my favorite song is Wake Up, Little Susie, Wake Up.
Avi, can you say something or give us any insight into, speaking of Greece, that is, a couple of days ago, I think, Trump agreed at the behest of Putin and Erdogan to withdraw forces close to the base in Alexandroupoli, Greece, which has upset Greece quite a lot. Do you know about that?
I didn't hear about it, no.
No. Well, it seems they've pressured him in his talks with Russia regarding Ukraine-Russian war. He seems to have Russia seems to have the backing of Turkey to pressure Trump regarding the removal of American forces, which are in a base in Alexandroupoli. I'm not really pronouncing that properly, but it's basically, they have bases in Cyprus and Greece. And Greece is rather upset about it.
You know what? I have my homework. I'll check it out for next week.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions? I think we have reached the wrap-up time.
Sounds like that's a wrap.
Okay, sweetie.
Okay.